Welcome to Chopping with Fire, where we bring you relevant experts in the topics of business, entrepreneurship, self-development, and of course, smart investments. Nominated by the People's Podcast Awards in 2022 and 2023 as one of the top business podcasts. Hosted by owner, doctor, and content creator Dustin Steffi. We are blessed to have our podcast in the top 50, paving the way in 5 major countries and counting, as well as money raised for 2 amazing causes, cystic fibrosis and of course the Boys and Girls Club. With that being said, and without further ado, let's chop it up. I have Ryan Hanley on right now. Ryan, how are you?
Dustin, it's great to be here, man. Appreciate being on the show and happy to share with the audience.
I appreciate you coming on. We have an important topic today, huh?
Well, it depends how you define important, but yes, I'd like to think so.
I mean, I'd like to think so too. I mean, younger me wouldn't have thought so. It would have not been as important, but as I start to learn a little bit more and understand, I think it's super relevant for business owners. I think today will be fun because education is key for success, especially in this day and age. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, that makes one of us. Even though I've done insurance for 20 years, it doesn't necessarily bring excitement to my life, but I do think it's incredibly important, and happy to answer any and all the questions you have about it. And we can dig into the kind of real deal behind it. I know a lot of my peers and other people who go on shows and talk about insurance, they tend to, I don't know, they're very dry and they tend to be very corporate and professional. And I'm happy to any of the dirty little secrets that you want to know. I'm happy to answer them because I have to buy this stuff too, and I have to look my customers in the face. So I try to be very honest with them. So you fire away and we'll get down into the nitty gritty.
Well, you're far from dry, that's for sure. And to reinforce that, let's just dive into you. Let's get to know you a little bit. We obviously don't know you as well as we want to. So let's fix that right now.
Yeah. So the 15-cent tour here is I'm the founder and CEO of Rogue Risk. We are a national commercial insurance agency. So we do business for, we are basically the mantra of our business was to take the level of service, the access to carriers, markets, products that are available to enterprise level businesses. Think the Fortune 500 to Fortune 1000, and bring them down to small businesses and middle market businesses, which are often treated like garbage by insurance professionals. And we can get into what the economics of that and why that happens. And while they'll tell you, a lot of my peers will tell you all day that they care about you, they are trying to touch your account once and never speak to you again, because the economics are very poor in our industry when it comes to small business. We'll get into that. So that was kind of the core. I saw some businesses, these large enterprise businesses, getting this white gloves treatment, this access to products that were allowing them to sustain their business through tough times. And that's really the key, Dustin, that so many people, people talk about protection, right? Everyone says insurance is about protection. Look, I'm not standing out in front of your business and stopping a tree from hitting it, or, a flood, or, protecting your business from a riot. Like, none of that stuff is happening. Like, I'm not standing out there. I'm not protecting your business. What I am providing, and the product and the way that I think insurance is misunderstood and misclassified, is the idea of sustainability. Do you want your business to continue through its worst day? Right? We have people, we have these entrepreneurs, we have small business owners, and they give their heart and soul, and they clear out their bank account, and they start these businesses, and it's amazing. And then they want to act like Billy Badass or Bonnie Badass, if we're being politically correct, I guess here. And then they act like they're not going to purchase the product that'll allow them to sustain their worst day. That tree does hit your building. You do have a fire. Someone walks in and slips and falls in your business and sues you for $1 million and you own a bookstore. How are you going to pay that claim? How are you going to pay that claim? You know what they're going to do? They're going to come after your house. They're like, oh, I have an LLC. Yeah. Look into the legal code in your state and understand what really happens when these things, your business is gone. All the money you put into it, all the blood, sweat, and tears, it's gone. One day, someone comes in, drops a coffee, slips and breaks a hip, and they sue you because they can't work. Your business is toast. I don't care what you think. Oh, I'll file for bankruptcy. That does not work. That is all the nonsense stuff that people talk about at whatever little function they're at, or when they're sitting around a campfire or at the bar. That is nonsense. Here's what really happens. Someone slips and falls and sues you. Your business is toast unless you have insurance. Now, you don't need to have every insurance product that exists in the world. You need to have a proper, well set up portfolio that doesn't have to be expensive, right? It doesn't have to be expensive. There are incredibly cost-effective options in the market. You just need access to them. And that's what I wanted to do. So that was the brainchild of where this all came from. Now, just quickly going back to how I got there, I started in the business 20 years ago. I started as a boots on the ground producer, which means I was literally walking strip plazas, putting 50,000 miles on my car like a door-to-door salesman just for businesses. That's how I cut my teeth. And how I got into the business was I wanted to marry this woman, and her dad owned an insurance agency, and me becoming a producer for him was kind of like the dowry for her hand in marriage, I guess you could say. I think he just didn't want his future son-in-law to be a bum. Unfortunately, she's now my ex-wife, but it was great at the time. And for 8 years, I worked for her family agency, and I got to know the traditional side of the business really, really well. Like the caring, the community, the compassion, the really, you have to look your people in the face. You walk into their businesses every day. That side of the business, I got to know that very well. Unfortunately, because I was even though I was a son-in-law, I wasn't really part of the family. There wasn't really a place for me there long-term. So I became a chief marketing officer for a national insurance technology company. I've been an executive in now 4 different national insurance organizations. And I, had wins and losses and all those. I was essentially fired from all of them. I've come to find out I'm not a great employee. And that really spurred me to start Rogue. I started Rogue on March 9th of 2020, 7 days before the zombie apocalypse hit the world. Not a great day to launch a commercial insurance agency, since every business and every customer I had shut down. But what it forced us to do was learn how to deliver value at scale in an efficient and cost-effective way. And while it was painful, and it still is to a certain extent today, because we're really just a 3.5-year-old business, we now have 25 people. We write business in 44 states. We have thousands of clients, and we are continuing to grow. And that's really the journey that I'm on. In that time, I've done over 350 paid speaking engagements and workshops around the country, teaching sales and digital scalability and leadership. More of it tends today to be more leadership oriented, that kind of stuff. But I wrote a book 2015. It's good, not great. And that's kind of me in a nutshell, my man.
So that's a lot to unpackage, considering you've had a pretty crazy journey. So I know you didn't wake up one day and say, I want to be in insurance. We already kind of learned the secret of what happened there. You followed a girl, kind of like some of us do. And
100%.
Yeah, it just happens, right?
Like most of the decisions that guys make in their 20s, we're following a female. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, hell, there are guys that are in their 30s, 40s that are still following a female. So enough said there. There was a lot of good things there that I heard. And one of the positives is Rogue survived the zombie apocalypse, right? Yeah. So Rogue survived COVID. Yes, and probably not ideal to open a business 7 days before COVID hit, but you survived. You learned a few things. You probably had some time, I would imagine, to learn how to perfect your product too, and perfect how you deliver. And here we are. So that's some positive right there. I think anyway. I started chopping in the middle of COVID, so I understand how everything
Yeah.
works with that. One of the big questions I have, and we've had one insurance person on before, that is, in a world where you have so many options, because everybody likes options, everybody likes instant gratification, why would a business pick you guys?
Yeah. So I'm going to break down that in a couple of different ways. First, I'm going to break down going direct versus working with an agent, because that is often the first question that I get from people who think that they're smarter than they really are. So, a lot of people who go direct, I find them to be, they think they're being smart by going direct. They think they're saving money. So going direct would mean you're going straight to the insurance company. So you're not working with an agent. You're going to someone, Progressive, Next, a good example, Hiscox. If anyone's heard of any of these companies, these are companies that you can log onto their website. You can fill out a bunch of questions, get a quote, and buy a policy from them direct. That's great. I'm glad that option exists. Unfortunately, what people don't understand is they're taking all the liability on themselves. So I have to carry errors and omissions coverage because I'm a professional. I'm a licensed professional in 50 states. So what that means is, if you have, let's say you have a question about the insurance around this podcast, right? You come in here and you say something defamatory, and one of your competitors, say a competitive podcast or a competitor in another aspect of your life, or another company hears you say that and they sue you for defamation. Okay. If you've purchased that policy and that policy does not have defamation coverage, it's not the insurance company's fault. It's your fault, right? Everyone wants to blame the insurance companies. Insurance companies are very straightforward in what they'll cover and what they won't. Again, there is a lot of nonsense talk because people don't like to take responsibility for their actions, right? So they purchase something, they don't read into it at all. They just go, I have insurance, and they pound the table and they walk away. They don't look at the policy. They don't ask any questions. And then they think they're covered. And that's just simply not how it works. This is a contract like you're buying a house. This is a contract like you're doing a business deal. This is a contract like anything else. No one wants to think about it that way. They want to think like they're buying a t-shirt, but you're not. You are entering into a contract in which the other side spells out exactly what is covered and what is not. Now, it's weird language. I'm not going to say that they write them in the most intriguing way or in the most straightforward way. But if you go direct, what you're saying is, me, the business owner, the purchaser of this policy, is wholly responsible for the decision on what I purchased. You don't realize it because most people don't look into it, but that's what you're saying. Now, when you work with an agent or a broker, one, there is only a few small scenarios where you're actually paying less. And oftentimes, you are actually paying more when you go direct, because you know how companies like Progressive and some of these others get you to come direct? They spend bazillions of dollars on marketing. I mean, bazillions. It's crazy. Like, the amount of money they spend is insane. And even the reported amounts sometimes are underreported because they're trying to, make their financial sheets. So they package it into co-opting dollars and all these other buckets of expense to get you to come in. So you're not actually paying less. But the bigger problem, again, if we're going back to sustainability of your business, if you care about your business surviving its worst day and you go direct, what you're doing is taking all that responsibility on yourself. So when you work with an agent or broker, that agent or broker is basically taking on the liability between the decision between what is purchased and the customer. Now, there are some scenarios where if the customer does certain things or misrepresents themselves, et cetera, where the customer can still get in trouble. But if you're being honest with your agent or broker, and that agent or broker then chooses from a portfolio of carriers and comes back and says, hey, look, if you're a podcast, media liability coverage is probably the most important coverage you could possibly have, because it covers defamation, it covers copyright infringements, IP infringements, et cetera. If you don't have this coverage, then the most important risk you have is actually not covered. Then you might not know that, right? And let's say I don't offer that coverage to you. You can come back to me and say, hey, the most important coverage across the board for every podcast in the world is media liability coverage. And you, Mr. Agent, did not offer it to me or even educate me that existed. It's your fault. And then that comes back on my errors and omissions coverage because I didn't do my job as a licensed professional. Again, think sustainability. You're not smart for going direct unless you are perfectly willing and make the mental trade-off in your head that you're okay taking on all the responsibility for the decision. Everybody wants to blame the insurance company. It's not their fault, guys. I would love to blame them. And I'm not saying they're the easiest people to deal with, but it's not their fault. They have a very specific contract that they hand to you that you can read through and says exactly what is covered and what is not. If you choose not to read that, that's your fault. That's not their fault, right? If I chose not to read it as a licensed professional, that would be my fault. And that's where that intermediary plays a big role. Okay. So you can obviously do whatever you want. It's America, but I highly advocate that you at least understand the decision to go direct or not. You can still go direct. That's perfectly fine. Plenty of people do, but most people do it naively. And I would just like those of you who listen to this show to make that decision as a cost benefit analysis for whatever reason. Okay. Okay. So then how do you choose an agency? Number one, and this is going to sound cliche. I don't mean it to be, but it's absolutely the truth. You have to trust the person that you're doing business with. You have to trust the person that you're doing business with. If you don't trust them, find someone else. There are 35 to, depending on how you report, 41,000 insurance agencies in the United States. There are over 300,000 insurance professionals that you could choose from. And those are kind of rough and conservative numbers. There are tons of options, right? Rogue is one of those options, but we're one of, like I said, we'll call it 40,000 options. So you have to trust the person you're working with. How do you trust them? Ask them questions, right? Have you ever insured a business like mine before? What are the most common causes of loss that you see in a business like mine? What's the most common coverage that my peers don't purchase that you think I should purchase, right? How do you ensure that over time, my insurance premiums don't just go up consistently every year without ever being rechecked or requoted, right? These are some questions that you can ask that person and listen to their answers, right? If their answers sound like BS, find someone else, right? If they're just trying to blow through the transaction, find someone else, right? Maybe ask a friend for a referral, read some online reviews, but you got to trust the person because there is at a certain point, despite the fact that I have errors and omissions coverage, if I make a major mistake, your business could still be decimated, right? So if I make a mistake, you still don't want that to happen. You want me to be able to do a good job, and I think how long you've been in the business is a good question. Although I will say, with the right support structure, and we do tend to be a business that hires new people because we have a training process. We have some producers that have gone, we have some people that have started that are unlicensed and they've gone through our 6-month training process. And then they do 6 months of shadowing. And now they're producers out on the floor doing an incredible job for people. And we listen to phone calls and we review their coverage stuff. So I don't necessarily know that new in the business would be number one for me. Some people are like, well, he's been in the business for 20 years or she's been in the business for 20 years. So they're better. That's not necessarily the case, right? Sometimes that young, hungry producer, young, hungry insurance salesperson is going to do a better job for you because they're going to be able to give you more time. So it's really there's no hard and fast rules there. And I've been around, like I've said, I've been in the business for 20 years. So I've seen all different shapes and sizes. It's more, ask them some of those questions that I gave you, listen to their answers, and then see how you feel about their responses. And if you don't like the way they respond, find someone else because there's plenty.
So we learned quite a bit here. So we learned first and foremost that if you're an insurance agent, you guys have your own insurance that you're carrying if you're not direct. And that helps to protect you, obviously, if you make a mistake, but also it's good to know for businesses that are trying to get insurance. So there's a protection there. There's a layer there.
Dustin, everyone's heard of malpractice insurance that doctors have.
Yep.
It's the exact same thing.
Yep.
Accountants have accountants E&O, accountants errors and omissions insurance. Lawyers have lawyers legal, right? We've heard of some of these things. Insurance agents have it's the same exact thing.
Right. So that might be a question to ask too in the steps to picking an insurance agent. Like, do you have errors and omissions insurance as well?
Yeah, I will say you can ask that question. That's perfectly fine. You cannot hold an insurance license in the United States without errors and omissions covered. So if they're a licensed professional, they can't not have it. Like they make you every year. You have to show an updated policy to every state that you do business in. So you can ask that question. It's not a bad question to ask, but all you're going to get 99.999% of the time is yes, we do.
Yeah. Well, in a world where we have all these calls that are fraudulent on your phone, I mean, it's a good thing to ask for these people that don't understand. So
yeah. Yep. It also could show a level of sophistication in your business that would have the insurance agent take you more seriously. So yeah, I think questioning all the questions are good. I don't mean to knock that question down. I just wanted people to know, like, there's no like subset of insurance agents that don't carry insurance. They would be fined very heavily. They do not mess around with this stuff.
I also learned something different too, because I mean, for me, like taking car insurance, right? I have Geico, and I just went through and called Geico Direct and got my insurance policy, and that's it. And I too thought that if I went direct and cut out like the agent or the middleman, if we say it like that, I would be paying a little less, right, to save some dollars. But in the long run, I don't see the savings, right? My parents, they have had the same insurance agent for 20 years or whatever the case may be, and so they like that. I didn't do that. But I learned the difference between dealing direct versus dealing with an agent. That was nice to learn, and I think that's nice for the listeners as well too. It's nice to understand that with direct, they don't really have they don't take the liability. The business does. If they get the wrong policy through direct, I mean, that's on the business.
And same thing with personal insurance. A lot of people go to Geico. Geico has a tremendous amount of marketing. The issue, Geico has special exclusions that other insurance policies do not. Like if you have a roommate and that roommate drives the car and crashes it, on almost every other carrier in the entire country, you would have coverage. With Geico, they can deny that claim. So you have a friend who says, "Hey, Dustin, I want to take this car for a ride." Right? All right. Hey, can I just bomb down to the store? My car's in the shop. And you're like, "No problem, man. Here's the keys. Take it." Whack, gets into an accident. Geico, you're in trouble. Almost every other carrier in the country, covered, no question. So it's like little things like that there's no way for you to know. And they do great marketing, and they're certainly not going to tell you. But these are the types of things that, while, we see the marketing and we feel like we're being smart. And look, insurance is not inexpensive, right? And we all have lives, and we all have realities on how much we can spend and how much we can't spend. But I don't think there's anything wrong with going to Geico. My only issue is what you started this podcast with education, is understand what the risks are, right? If you understand that you giving your keys to someone else and taking for a ride, you have no insurance coverage when that happens. When you have Geico, you just don't do that, right? You just say, "Hey man, sorry, can't, my insurance. I save $50 a month, but that's the trade-off, is I can't let anyone else drive my car." Then, hey, now that's a really clear value proposition that you have made to save, whatever the money is, versus some things that maybe you can't do that you could if you had which, no one really wants anyone to borrow their car anyways. So like, these are the kind of things that kind of why I do shows like this, why I try to share so much. If you go to our YouTube channel, we have like over 400 videos breaking down insurance coverage in very clear, very real, like human terms, like I'm trying to do with you now. Because I think the insurance industry is really a wonderful industry. It's a very bad rap. There have been a lot of things that have happened that, are unfortunate, but it almost always comes back to the fact that people did not read their policies. And insurance companies, unfortunately, they don't lie, but they're not always, it's not like they pull the kimono all the way back, right? So like you got to dig in to understand. So that's why I try to share these things, because it's like you make the decisions that work best for you always, but do it with full understanding of what those decisions are. And that's what kind of bugs me about my industry, is I feel for so long we were like the gatekeepers of information. So, when we try, education is a huge part of our business. You can go to our website. We have over 500 articles and we have over 400 videos on our YouTube channel, and we create all that content. We're creating content almost every day, every week, just to give you little pieces of information, like I shared about the reason why you may want to use an agent or a broker versus going direct.
And I think that's important too, when sifting through and picking what's right for your business. And I'm not saying that Rogue would be right for everyone, but what I am saying is it's important to understand like the value proposition that a company adds, or an insurance agent or whatever adds to your business. So the value proposition that I see for Rogue is you guys are pretty forthcoming on information. You're trying to educate and give people a little more education on what insurance really does truly offer and what you guys can offer. So there's some value added there, which adds to the steps in picking an appropriate insurance policy and agent, right? And you said it best. The number one thing is to trust who you're going into business with, and who's supporting your business. Trust is a really big thing. Trust is easily lost, but hard to gain. So how do you gain trust? You build credibility by asking questions, and you gave some good questions, I think, to ask honestly to anyone that you're trying to filter out to give you that policy. I also think it's super important in picking to see the value added, like I brought up a couple minutes ago. What value is this person adding to your business? That's super important. I think that's great. I think another step in that process of picking is a likability factor as well too. Is this person relating with you? Is this person likable? Because when you have an agent, you're gonna have to build that relationship and actually have that person.
Yeah. I think I think there's a couple things there. I would caution people on gregarious agents, or just anybody, right? When we're making decisions, I think unfortunately a sign of our times is nice. Everyone has to be nice. Is this person nice? Are they politically correct? Are they this or that? And I think I don't think we should be, I don't think we should purposefully do things I don't think we should purposefully not be nice or whatever. But, my dad said something to me a long time ago, and it was a different era. I'm in my mid 40s. And, it was, you don't have to like somebody, but they need to do a good job, right? Do they do a good job? Are they going to get the job done? Right? Like I think that there are people that I do business with. I don't agree with their politics. I don't love the way they dress. I don't love their lifestyle, but man, do they do a good job. And that's what matters, right? So, and again, I'm not saying, as a salesperson, do you want to be likable? Do you want to be relatable? Yes, you definitely do. But I also think that in this age that we live in today, where marketing is so put on, it's there's a best practice book. There's 10 million best practices books for every marketing thing, and there's a lot of people that are really good at presenting themselves in a certain way, but don't actually get the job done. So why I tend to, and again, this is maybe just a very personal thing, take this for what it is. I tend to, if I'm ranking, likability for me tends to be a low determining factor in who I do business with, the vendors I use. I have like I said, a particular viewpoint on the world. I have a particular set of politics but that doesn't impact who I do business with, because one, it's America and everyone gets to have their own viewpoints on everything. They get to dress the way they want. They get to act the way they want. It's the way it is. Right. But do they get the job done for you? Right. If you need someone who's going to show up who's going to pick up the phone at 9 p.m., would you rather they picked up the phone at 9 p.m. and maybe were a little disagreeable, but got the job done for you? Or they said, hey, man, I'm out doing the things I do. I stopped working at 5. I'll have to get back to you tomorrow. And we just need to, and this is just general leadership advice. I feel like as we mature, it tends to be, I think, younger leaders or younger decision makers, business owners that tend to over skew on likability, and that I would skew more towards who gets the job done and who do you can count on, regardless if they perfectly align with you, regardless if maybe they hate golf and you love golf, or they're from a different town or whatever. Find someone who's going to do the job for you in the way that you need it. Right? If you're a bar, you need someone who's going to pick up the phone late. If there's a fight or a brawl or a fire or the cops get called or something happens, right? You're a late night joint. You need someone who's going to be there, who's going to pick up the phone late at night. You don't need someone who works 9 to 5, right? You need someone who's going to be there for you. If you are, working at an accounting firm, maybe that 9 to 5 person is perfectly fine, because there's not a lot of things that are going to happen after hours. So I would always skew. I would not over index on likability. To me, that is marketing tactics. And it's a sign of our times where we feel like we need to perfectly align with the people we do business with. And I think that can be a factor. I just wouldn't overemphasize on it personally. Again, that's me as a leader. That's not necessarily a core value to Rogue, but I just tend to find people. Are you good at what you do? Are you going to help me? Do you care about me as a partner, vendor, etc.? And if those things are in the case, and I just simply don't love all the things about you, I don't care.
I think that's good. And I think you brought up a good point that in this day and age, we tend to err on, do we like the person? And that's probably more so the younger generation. I tend to err on, does this person respect the needs of my business, and does this person respect me? It's a respect factor, respect thing for me as a leader. So I'm not saying that people
I think that's well said. I think that's very well said. I think that's probably in a nutshell what I was trying to say, is that you can get past differences if they respect and are going to do what you need them to do for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think likability was probably the wrong term when I brought it up.
That's okay. No, it's fine. We're just having a discussion.
I do agree though that it should have been brought up. So that's good there. I mean, because we do tend to err on, well, do I like this person? Yes. All right. And they may not be the right fit. So I think that was good play right there. I think there were some good knowledge bombs dropped in that anyway. So I liked it. With that being said, I want to kind of round everything off on your personal opinion. You've already brought it up too a couple of times, but just to solidify it, why is insurance so important? There are businesses, and I'm not going to call out the businesses, but there are businesses that probably rank insurance on the lower echelon of the totem pole, if at all. So why is insurance so important, aside from, well, being sued, losing your business, and going after your personal assets? I think you brought it up in the beginning.
Yeah.
People have this stigma of an LLC is protecting your personal assets, but really, is it?
So let's take Katrina in New Orleans. There were a lot of negative stories written about insurance with Katrina in New Orleans. And there was one particular company that for some homes didn't do all it could do. That's for sure. That city would not exist if it were not for insurance. And most of the businesses in New Orleans are owned by small business owners, right? They're restaurants, bars, taverns, clubs, shops, the voodoo shops and all these kind of things. None of that would exist without insurance. It would all be gone. It would never have come back. It would be toast. That city would not exist and no one would go there. We wouldn't be able to eat the amazing food and the beignets and all the great stuff that they have down there. This amazing cultural epicenter for our country would not exist if it wasn't for insurance. And not because of the big companies. The big companies would have been fine. The big companies who have headquarters in other places and assets in other places would have built back up. The small business owners would have never come back without insurance. It wouldn't exist. So insurance is not about protection. You're not protecting anything. It's about sustainability. If you love your business and you're going to have a bad day, anyone who's been in the business owner game for any period of time knows what it's like to have a bad day, right? A fire, you lose a big client because of something, you make a huge mistake, all these things. Some of them are covered by insurance, some of them aren't. But the ones that are, right? Fires, flooding, slips, trips, and falls, major mistakes in your business, you get attacked by a cyber attack, right? I just had a client the other day get phished, furniture store, single location furniture store. One of his clients got phished using his name for $50,000. Do you think he wanted to come out of his pocket for 50 grand? You know how much it actually cost him? $1,500 because the insurance company paid the other $48,500. His deductible was $1,500. So instead of a $50,000 loss, he had a $1,500 loss. $50,000 loss might crush his month, might set him back. Who knows where he was financially? That could potentially, he could lose an employee. Who knows what happens, right? He could get set back on making loan payments. $50,000 is a lot of money to a single location furniture store. Instead, it costs him $1,500. It's for the bad days that you're going to have. And if you don't believe you're going to have bad days, you will not be in business long. I mean, that's the truth. If you are operating your business from a place that it's just always going to be great and everything's going to work, you are in big, big trouble. So for those of you who are standing out there going, I fully understand that bad days are going to happen, and I want to make sure that my business carries through. That's what insurance is for. Again, it doesn't have to, you don't have to get the most expensive insurance. You don't have to get every policy that exists in the world, right? You need to work with somebody, and this is the way we train our producers at Rogue, but like you have to work with someone who's going to walk you through in cost benefit analysis, all the policies that you could potentially need, and then let you as the business owner make the proper decisions as to what you feel. You're making a trade-off. You're either insuring or self-insuring everything. So if you say, hey, Ryan, I own a bakery in upstate New York, what do I need cyber insurance for? You don't need it. You don't need it. But understand, you are self-insuring it if you don't have it. You're basically saying, I'm willing to insure it myself if someone hacks me, right? You could not have general liability. You don't have general liability. That's slips, trips, and falls, third-party bodily injury or property damage, right? Someone walks in your store, slips on, you're in an icy environment, slips, goes head over heels, cracks their head. They were a doctor. They now can't perform surgery for a month, and you owe them $250,000. You don't have to have general liability. There's no law in the United States that says you have to have general liability. If you want to do work with some companies, they'll force you to, but there's no law that says you have to have general liability. How are you going to pay the $250,000 bill? That person's either going to own your business, which they're probably not going to want to do, so it's going to be shut down. That's it. You are self-insuring that. Everything you don't insure with insurance, you are self-insuring. And just make those trade-offs through education and through understanding. It is perfectly fine to say, I don't want cyber insurance. Perfectly fine to say that. Just understand that doesn't take away the fact that if a cyber attack happens or a phishing attack happens or a money laundering transfer happens, that you're not responsible for it. You're still responsible for it. You still have to pay for it. Just, insurance isn't going to help you. So those are the things. It's you get these people pounding the table going, you have to have this and you need to have this and you need, no. The only thing you really need to have in the United States is commercial auto insurance if you have a vehicle registered to your business, and you need to have workers' comp in every state except for one, if you, two, maybe one or two, if you have employees. Those are the only two policies mandated by law. So other than those two things, All the others, you could say, nope, I'm good. Just understand you are still insuring them. You're just self-insuring them. You're insuring them through your own assets, your own resources. The liability doesn't go away. The responsibility doesn't go away. So that's, I think just a more pragmatic and real way to think through it. It allows you to make true kind of cost benefit analysis decisions. And then you just walk through that process. And then now you're super comfortable with it. I've decided to go with this policy, this one, and this one. This one I'm going to self-insure for now. Maybe when I get some more loot or money or my business grows, we'll think about this. No problem. These ones over here seem extraneous and really I'm okay self-insuring those. Boom, done. Now you've made very educated, very well-rounded decisions that you can feel comfortable about. And that's what a business owner does.
I think that's it in a nutshell. A business owner has a lot of decisions on their plate. In my mind, why add more to your plate? Make it a little easier on yourself. Get things that your business needs to be successful and set you up for success. Less is more.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
With that being said, Ryan, how do people get a hold of you or your business if they're so inclined to get more information, want to have insurance, enjoyed kind of how we discussed and brought everything up? How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so if you like the kind of way that I've talked about this, you can go to Rogue Risk, ROGUERISK.com, Rogue Risk. A lot of people ask me about the name Rogue because it's very different from a lot of insurance agencies. I'd like to believe that over the last 40 minutes or so, you've heard a different philosophy on approaching, and that's why we call ourselves Rogue. We do things differently. We're national and remote. So we don't have any physical locations in any geographic regions. We have people spread throughout the country in every time zone and every quadrant of the country. So you'll find someone who lives in your region of the country, but our brokers are licensed in multiple states and on all that. That's great. So you can go to roguerisk.com. If you like kind of the stuff I talk about, besides, my work as CEO and founder, I also do a lot of keynote speaking. I have my own podcast on leadership and I do a lot of stuff on Instagram. So you can find me at Ryan_Hanley on Instagram, or you just go to RyanHanley.com and check out that stuff. Any questions, anything you have, insurance or otherwise related, I love answering questions. I love helping people and happy to do so.
And for my listeners, I'm going to have all those links. I just wrote them down. I'll have all those links in the episode description for you to make things easier. I know that insurance isn't the most fun topic to talk about, but I try to bring relevance to it by having guests that make it make more sense and provide the most important thing to my listeners, which is education. So Ryan, I think you did a good job of that. I really do appreciate you coming on and just having a discussion centered around that. I think it is an important topic. I think it's important to understand, and most importantly, it's important to educate yourself.
Really agree, man. Hey, I appreciate it. I think it's amazing. A lot of people don't like to have insurance people on, or me, because they think it's going to be boring. I hope that it wasn't for your audience, but I appreciate you just getting this stuff out here. And guys, if you never use Rogue Risk, I'm completely cool with that. But take some of the questions, take some of the ideas, bring them. Hopefully they help your business. And I just want to see small business thrive, my man. I come from a town of 900 people. We're small business community, and I just want to see small business continue to thrive in this country, and trying to do my part. So,
yeah, I think again, it's important. And honestly, I challenge my listeners to go to one of the links that we're going to provide for Ryan's information. Take a look at the information that he provides. I think it's important. I think it'll help out. And as you all know, I am a proponent of educating yourself. So this is another example of you upscaling yourself and creating success. So Ryan, again, thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate you.
Thanks, Dustin.
Thank you again for choosing Chopping with Fire as your premier podcast for anything with regards to business, entrepreneurship, self-development, and smart investment decisions. If you enjoyed the episode as much as we did, please head on over to one of our social platforms and leave us a comment and or add us. We do have a TikTok, We do have a LinkedIn. We have a Facebook, Instagram, YouTube as well. And also, we do have a website. Head on over to www.shoppingwithfire.com. That's CHOPPIN with fire.com. And take a look at prior content that we have posted. Lastly, if you guys can, please head on over to your favorite podcast platform and leave us a 5-star rating and review. We love to interact with our fans, and I would love to post responses to your guys' comments. Again, this was another episode of Chopping with Fire.